All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really cutting through the noise, getting you truly well-informed on a fight everyone's still talking about. You've got to imagine the scene. The bright lights, MGM Grand Garden Arena, Las Vegas, a legend stepping back in, a young champion ready to make history. This wasn't just any fight. It was a real generational clash, you know. Left boxing fans debating for days afterwards. We're diving deep into the July 19th, 2025 bout. Boxing icon Manny Pacquiao versus the reigning WBC Welterweight champ Mario Azteca Barrios. Our mission here, to kind of unearth the hidden layers. We're looking at fight analyses, the stats, those raw post-fight reactions. We want to piece together the full story, this war of eras, and understand its surprising and, pretty polarizing outcome. Okay, let's unpack this.
Exactly. And this deep dive, it's about more than just, the final scores of the punch counts. It's really a chance to look past the headlines and explore the nuances of what actually unfolded in that ring. And maybe more importantly, why this particular event just captivated so many people around the world.
Absolutely. And the story, the narrative that sparked all this interest, it really began with the audacious return of Manny Pacquiao. I mean, think about this. 46 years old. Yeah. Nearly 4 years out of the ring since 2021. He'd retired. He was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame, fully immersed in his political career back in the Philippines. And yet he chose to come back. Not for some exhibition, but for a legitimate world title against a prime champion. The historical stakes were just monumental, weren't they? A win would have smashed his own record, oldest welterweight champ, which he set at 40, and incredibly, it would have made him the first boxer ever to win a major world title after being in the Hall of Fame. But was that just a carefully crafted narrative, or do you think his camp genuinely believed he could defy, nearly 4 years of ring rust and a demanding political life?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? On one hand, Pacquiao's defied expectations his whole career. He's always been driven by this unique blend of passion and almost spiritual connection to boxing. But on the other hand, even legends can't completely outrun biology, right? I think it was a mix, a genuine rekindled desire, maybe even a feeling his body was rested, not just aged. Let's be honest, the commercial interests perfectly. He wasn't just fighting Barrios, he was going head-to-head with Father Time, and that captures the public imagination every time.
And then, across the ring, Mario Barrios. Reigning WBC champion, 30 years old, undeniably a formidable fighter, but maybe hadn't quite hit that crossover stardom yet. A win over Pacquiao could do that instantly. This was, he admitted it himself, the biggest event of his career, his chance to etch his name in boxing lore by beating an icon. Barrios also had something to prove, didn't he? Coming off that split decision draw against Abel Ramos in his previous defense. So this fight, Pacquiao, it was his shot for a really emphatic statement. He publicly walked this fine line, showing deep respect for the legend, but also promising bad intentions when the bell rang. You could feel that determination. He didn't want to be just a footnote.
Yeah, it's fascinating how the clash of personas created this narrative that was almost as compelling as the fight itself. You had the wise, defiant legend versus the young, hungry champion, the potential legend killer. And this isn't just marketing talk. It really frames the whole psychological battle before a punch is even thrown. For Barrios, this was about legitimacy, moving from just champion to star.
And the pre-fight landscape just amplified that drama. The physical realities were pretty stark, right? Barrios is 6 feet tall, 71-inch reach. That gave him a big, 6-inch height and 4-inch reach advantage over Pacquiao at 5'5.5", at a 16-year age gap. Well, it's no wonder the odds makers made Barrios the clear favorite, -275. Pacquiao was the underdog at +195. That was a rare spot for him after being the favorite for 2 decades.
Yeah, it's definitely unusual territory for Pacman.
And their pre-fight records, KO percentages, were actually pretty similar. Pacquiao 6'2", 39 KOs, Barrios 29-1, 18 KOs. All these numbers just hammered home that man versus time narrative even more. So, okay, we've set the stage. The narratives are clear. But the real drama, obviously, unfolded over those 12 grueling rounds. When you look at the fight itself, how would you break down that tactical battle? What did you see playing out?
It was a true tactical chess match, exactly like the tale of the tape suggested it might be.
Yeah.
You had Pacquiao's speed, his angles, versus Barrios' size, and that jab, we can basically break it down into 3 acts, I think. And those opening rounds, 1 through 3, that was all about establishing dominance.
Right. In those first few, Pacquiao, despite the layoff, he definitely showed flashes of the old Pacman. Moved with that trademark aggression, looked surprisingly sharp early. But Barrios, he immediately went to his bread and butter, that long, authoritative jab.
Right away.
And it wasn't just scoring points. It felt like a psychological weapon, controlling the range, disrupting Pacquiao's rhythm, made it almost impossible for Manny to get inside and unleash those flurries he's known for.
Yeah, he really struggled to close that distance.
He landed some straight lefts, sure, but Barrios' jab really dictated those early terms. There was even that slip by Barrios in round 2, correctly ruled a slip, thankfully, which avoided any early controversy. By the end of the third, yeah, Barrios had clearly built a narrow lead with that jab.
Absolutely. Barrios' early game plan was spot on, really effective. A dominant jab, especially against someone like Pacquiao, who relies on that explosiveness, getting inside. It can just neutralize their rhythm, keep them on the outside. It's basic boxing, but crucial here. It controlled the fight's pace, and it bought Barrios time, to see what he was really up against with the aging legend.
Okay, so moving into the middle rounds, 4 through 6, the fight sort of settled into this strategic stalemate. Barrios kept jabbing, but the big critique that emerged was he just didn't follow it up. No meaningful power shots, no sustained body attack. It almost felt like his strategy was just banking on the 46-year-old Pacquiao fading rather than him making him fade. What did you make of that conservative approach?
Well, this raises that important question, doesn't it? When does caution become, like, a tactical mistake? Barrios being reluctant to commit, which is understandable against a legend who could still land a big counter. It gave Pacquiao space, gave him time to warm up, find his timing. Instead of actively trying to break Pacquiao down, Barrios basically allowed him to hang around, stay in the fight, find a rhythm.
Yeah, you could see Pacquiao starting to find openings, landing hooks, crosses to the body, keeping the rounds competitive, even if the punches maybe lacked that prime concussive power.
Exactly. It was a calculated risk by Barrios, that passivity, and it really, really nearly backfired on him.
And then came rounds 7 through 9. This is where that dramatic shift happened, Pacquiao's surge. He started seizing control, landing clean, powerful left hands, putting together those blistering combinations that are his signature.
That's the Pacman we remembered.
The 8th round was arguably his best. Thrilling exchanges, a clean right hook that actually knocked Barrios off balance. The crowd went absolutely nuts. Watching Barrios abandon the jab in those middle rounds, it almost felt like he forgot who he was fighting for a bit.
It did seem that way.
During this key period, Barrios just seemed to have no answer for the speed, the angles. He ditched his best weapon. The jab seemed tentative. A lot of people watching felt he looked maybe starstruck or just overly respectful of the icon. How much does that mental game really play into it at this level?
Oh, it's everything. It's absolutely crucial. At the elite level, physical advantages mean nothing if the mental side isn't right. Barrios' deference, whether he meant it or not, it created a real tactical opening. And Pacquiao, the veteran, he jumped right on it. When you face an icon, sometimes that respect can almost paralyze you. And that seemed to be what happened in those middle rounds. It's not just about what you can do physically, but what you allow yourself to do mentally.
So, as the fight entered the championship rounds, 10 through 12, Barrios and his corner clearly knew it was slipping away. The champion came out with this new urgency, returned to the jab with conviction, started following it up. Effective right hands, uppercut.
He had to. He was behind.
Landed a strong right in the 11th, relentless pressure in the 12th. And this is the key point. All 3 judges unanimously gave these final 3 rounds to Barrios. A clean sweep that completely erased Pacquiao's lead and turned what looked like a potential historic win into that contentious draw. With the judges' scores causing so much debate, everyone immediately looked to the objective arbiter, the CompuBox numbers. But what's fascinating is how the stats, instead of settling things, actually just added more fuel to the fire.
Right.
They perfectly captured the dilemma, didn't they?
They really did. It laid bare the whole issue.
Overall, Barrios landed more total punches, 120 out of 658, about 18.2% accuracy. Pacquiao landed 101 of 577, so 17.5%. Barrios' advantage was almost all down to the jab landed more than double Pacquiao's, 45 to 20. But here's the flip side. Pacquiao landed more power punches, 81 to Barrios' 75. This split right here, this is the quantitative heart of the whole controversy.
Exactly. What these numbers really expose isn't just different styles, it's this fundamental tension in how we judge boxing today. Is it about consistent scoring, the volume, the jabs, or is it about the visually impactful, maybe game-changing power shots? This fight became like a perfect little microcosm of that whole philosophical debate. Shows how subjective the sport still is, even with all the numbers. Barrios landed more stuff, maybe, but Pacquiao landed the moments that caught the eye.
And if you look round by round, the data mirrors the fight's narrative perfectly. Barrios' jab and total punch numbers were highest at the start and the end, the rounds he clearly controlled. Conversely, Pacquiao's power punch advantage was most obvious during that mid-fight surge. Like in the 9th round, he outlanded Barrios in power shots, while Barrios landed 0 jabs.
0 jabs, yeah. Tells you everything about that period.
And most importantly, the data confirms Barrios' late rally. His output, his connection numbers for both total and power punches, they spiked significantly in rounds 10, 11, and 12. That provides the statistical justification, at least, for the judges unanimously scoring that crucial final stretch for him. Which brings us to the official verdict, a majority draw. When Jimmy Lennon Jr. announced it, you heard the boos, mostly from the pro-Pacquiao crowd. The specific scores, Max DeLuca had at 115-113 for Barrios. Tim Cheatham and Steve Weisfeld both scored at 114-114, a draw.
And the key to understanding how they got there is looking at the progression. After 9 rounds, Manny Pacquiao was actually ahead on all 3 cards. Cheatham and Weisfeld had him up 87-84. DeLuca had him slightly closer at 86-85. If the fight stopped then, unanimous decision for Pacquiao.
Wow, so it all came down to those last 3 rounds.
Completely.
Yeah.
And in this really remarkable show of unanimity, all 3 judges scored rounds 10, 11, and 12 for Barrios. That clean sweep was just enough to erase Manny's lead, pulled Cheatham and Weisfeld's cards even at 114-114, and tipped DeLuca's card at Barrios 115-113. So that judicial unanimity right at the end, it clearly rewarded the guy who finished stronger, showed that will of a champion.
It aligns with that old, maybe controversial boxing idea.
Yeah.
You've got to decisively beat the champion, not just edge him on points.
And this, of course, immediately kicked off the robbery debate among fans, didn't it? The perception for many was that Pacquiao's explosive flurries, that aggression, should have won him the fight. But was that perception totally aligned with reality? Not entirely. While those bursts were visually dramatic, if you watch closely, a lot of those punches were actually caught on the gloves or they missed. They looked more effective than they really were. So while the result was obviously disappointing for Pacquiao fans, calling it a flat-out robbery kind of overlooks the legitimate path to a draw. Barrios' consistent jab, his higher total punch output, and critically, that dominant finish in the championship rounds, it provided a reasonable foundation for the scores. It really just highlights how subjective boxing judging can be. What looks like a huge shot to the crowd might be blocked, while a steady, less flashy jab just racks up points round after round.
Let's turn to the voices from the ring then. Those moments right after the final bell, they gave us a pretty candid look into their minds. Manny Pacquiao was unequivocal. "I thought I won the fight," he said flat out. Even gave his own score, 8-4. He did acknowledge it was tough, praised Barrios, very tough, wonderful. And crucially, he subtly admitted the reality of that limited 2-month camp due to his political work, suggesting longer prep would have been better. And immediately, he wanted a rematch.
Yeah, Pacquiao's comments, they really walk that fine line, don't they? He's confident in how he performed, but also realistic about the demands, the limitations of fighting at 46. It kind of speaks to his self-awareness, I think. He wasn't making excuses, just giving context, which is pretty rare for a fighter right after a fight like that.
And Mario Barrios, the defending champ, he expressed satisfaction with keeping his title, believed his late push was enough, but the most telling thing from him was this deep, almost awestruck respect for what Pacquiao brought.
Yeah, you could really hear it in his voice.
Called it an honor to face the legend, seemed genuinely shocked by Manny's condition. Said things like, his stamina is crazy, still strong as hell, timing is real, very awkward. Barrios admitted his plan was to make him feel old, but conceded Pacquiao still has some good legs and a lot left in the tank. And like Pacquiao, he was immediately open to running it back. And Freddie Roach, Pacquiao's longtime trainer, he echoed Manny 8-4 scorecard, wanted the rematch.
So looking at the aftermath, the horizon, that majority draw, while controversial, you could argue was the most commercially beneficial outcome, couldn't you? It left both guys in this sort of legacy limbo. Creates an unresolved story that pretty much demands a sequel.
Oh, absolutely. From a business standpoint. An unresolved narrative like this is pure marketing gold in boxing. Keeps the fans buzzing, generates endless talk, and guarantees a huge payday for everyone involved in the inevitable part 2. Neither guy truly lost, so both can sell the rematch hard. It's a classic setup, almost guarantees another blockbuster. That's right. So the most logical, most marketable path forward is definitely a direct rematch. Both teams endorsed it right away. So for Manny Pacquiao, this performance was, well, It was a marvel in many ways. He silenced a lot of doubters, proved he could still hang at the elite level against a prime champ. But the fight also laid bare those undeniable effects of age, didn't it? The reflexes maybe a touch slower, the power not quite as explosive, couldn't quite sustain that pace for 12 full rounds, especially late. The draw leaves his legacy in this weird spot. A valiant effort, agonizingly short of a fairy tale ending, but not a definitive loss that screams, retire now. So given this, are we looking at one more dance? Could this lead to, I don't know, resurrecting talks with Mayweather, or maybe other guys like Conor Benn? The Pacquiao show seems like it's still on the road.
It definitely seems like it is. And for a 46-year-old, the fact we're even having this conversation about future mega fights is just a testament to his unique status. A draw lets him exit with his head high, or, more likely, demand one last huge curtain call. The question now isn't really if he can still compete, it's more how often and for how long can he keep doing it against top guys. Every fight now is a new test against time.
And what about Mario Barrios? The draw is a mixed bag for him. Successfully defended the title, yes, but he didn't get that emphatic, career-defining win he wanted. The fight exposed some tactical weaknesses, that passivity in the middle, abandoning the jab, but it also showed his toughness, his resilience, his ability to adjust under pressure. He's still the WBC champ, still a target for top contenders if a rematch doesn't happen. What does he need to do now to really solidify his status?
He needs to take the lessons from this fight and apply them, like, ruthlessly. He showed he can adjust, but he needs to avoid those lulls, that passivity. To really move from being a champion to being a star in his own right, he needs a more decisive performance, whether that's in a rematch or against another top welterweight. And that ties into the bigger picture at 147, which is still one of boxing's deepest divisions. Pacquiao sticking around creates these high-risk, high-reward chances for other guys. And remember, the co-main event that night had Sebastian Fundora getting an impressive TKO over Tim Tszyu, just a reminder of the talent working there. But yeah, the unresolved business at the very top, Pacquiao Barrios, that holds everyone's attention right now.
So what does this all mean for you listening?
Our deep dive today, we've pulled back the curtain on the clashing narratives, the shifting momentum, those statistical ambiguities, and the deeply subjective nature of judging that led to that controversial draw. It means that even in elite sports, the story isn't just hype. It's like an invisible force. It influences strategy. It shapes perception, even for judges. And ultimately, as we saw with Pacquiao versus Barrios, it can profoundly alter the very objective outcome of a contest.
Exactly. And while the numbers, the scorecards, they tell one story. That enduring image of a 46-year-old legend pushing a prime champion right to the absolute brink. It raises this profound question, doesn't it, about the ultimate victor in that ongoing fight between human will and Father Time. Perhaps in this fight, time itself was the real winner, ensuring no definitive ending and just leaving us all to ponder what truly counts as a win in the grand story of a legendary career.